I see the Honourable Member for Calgary-Acadia and the Minister of Health standing.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And congratulations to you in your election. While I have this opportunity, congratulations as well to the member for Airdrie in her election, and to the member for Olds Didsbury Three Hills for his election as Speaker. I'm very pleased to be able to rise today as the member for Calgary-Acadia in this maiden speech. First, let me take a moment, Mr. Chair, to thank the previous member for Calgary-Acadia for her service the previous 4 years, Ms. Brandy Payne. And I should note as well that, Mr. Chair, Calgary-Acadia is a name which has existed only since 2012, but the constituency itself has a history dating back to 1971 under a different name, Calgary-Egmont. Unfortunately, the close similarity to the Calgary community of Edgemont was too confusing, and the constituency was renamed, which means that the history of being named after the Egmont House, where Fred Percival, the 11th Earl of Egmont, is lost. Calgary-Egmont and Calgary-Acadia have been represented since 1971, starting with Merv Leach, a former Attorney General and Minister of Energy, whom many credit as being the architect of Section 33 of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, the notwithstanding clause, Mr. Chair. It was also represented by a former occupant of your chair, Speaker David Carter, as well as the former Minister of Advanced Education, Dennis Herrard, and Jonathan Dennis, another former Attorney General. I'm proud, Mr. Speaker, to be included in the same company as these former members. Mr. Speaker, I first became involved in politics in 1992. I was 16, and I bought a membership in a political party. Because although I was only 16, I could vote, Mr. Speaker. I could vote in the leadership of a party, and as a result was one of 46,000 Albertans to put an X beside the name of Ralph Klein. And now, Mr. Speaker, I get to sit in this assembly and sit at a desk which in its drawer has the signature of Premier Klein. It is very humbling, Mr. Chair. I note as well that I'm not the first member of this assembly with my last name. There was another, the first Ukrainian Canadian to serve as an MLA in Alberta, Mike Guido's oldest brother. Alberta is fortunate to have some 350,000 Albertans who officially count ourselves as people of Ukrainian descent. We were given the toughest land. When Sir Clifford Sifton opened the prairies to homesteaders at the turn of the last century, he chose to focus on what he called the men in sheepskin cloaks, including my great-grandfather, who came from the steps of what then was known as Bukovina. The first wave came by the tens of thousands to the tough parkland area north of Battle River, where they had to clear trees and plow tough soil over those first years. My Baba told me of stories of surviving those first winters, and that it was only possible through immense perseverance. That's the frontier spirit which we need to renew as a province if we are once again to see a renewal of the Alberta Advantage. Mike Guido, Mr. Chair, he lived a tough life. When his mother passed and his father remarried, Mike Guido was invited to leave the home. That is to say, he was kicked out of the home at 8 years of age. He was homeless and never again able to continue with his education, but he toiled for the rest of his life, as did my Baba, to provide for my dad and my two uncles. Guido ran a grain elevator and drove a school bus, while my Baba ran a school cafeteria. And their hard work meant that although my dad grew up with little, he was given opportunity. He ended up being the first of his family to go to university, where he went on to become an otolaryngologist, described by some who knew him when he practiced as a legend. And my mom, when they got married at a young age, my mom worked to support my dad during med school. She was a flight attendant for Ward Air. And it's only through the grace and the hard work of my mom and dad, Mr. Chair, that I'm able to stand here today. My mother's family homesteaded in the Carstairs area, originally from Pennsylvania. I've been to the Pennsylvania Monument in Gettysburg, and I've seen my grandfather's family listed as those who fought for Lincoln's Union during the Battle of Gettysburg. My grandfather's family from Indiana County in Pennsylvania were a last stop on the Underground Railroad. Early settlement of Scottish Presbyterians with their own history of persecution laid the grounds for vibrant anti-slavery sentiment in Pennsylvania, Mr. Chair, in the decades before the Civil War. And it's not possible to overstate the influence of my grandma and my Baba and my mom, Mr. Speaker. I was blessed with having such strong, loving, and supportive women in my life. When I was campaigning, Mr. Chair, I was asked why I'm a conservative. My answer is that conservatism is the politics of gratitude, a respect and an admiration for the generations, Mr. Chair, who came before us. And Mr. Chair, with every vote I make in this assembly, I will remember my parents and my grandparents. I'll remember and respect all of their hard work that gave me this unique opportunity. I was also asked on the campaign trail why I'm running. And that answer, Mr. Chair, is my children, Phineas and Archer. I met my wife, Mr. Chair, at the age of 15, and when people hear that, they ask what it's like to marry a high school sweetheart. But I have to correct them very quickly, Mr. Chair. I met her when I was 15, but it took me 16 years to convince her to go on a date with me. I'm blessed to be the husband of the fiercest, strongest, most capable person I know, the most competitive air hockey player I've ever met, my sushi making, dog sledding, axe throwing, karaoke singing, bathroom renovating wife. And to her and to my 2 boys, I thank them for letting me be able to serve here in this assembly. Those 2 boys are the reason I decided to run, Mr. Chair, to make sure that they have the same opportunities which my wife, Andrea, and I had when we grew up in this province. And now, Mr. Chair, I find myself in the position of being a Minister of the Crown. And I enter upon those arduous duties assigned to me with the deepest sense of the responsibilities they involve. I've been in the job now for 1 month, and I'll admit to being overwhelmed when I get to meet all the amazing men and women in our healthcare system who want to serve their fellow Albertans. So, Mr. Speaker, thank you for this opportunity, and through you, thank you to the fellow members here. And I look forward to an opportunity, a productive 4 years over the next term in working with all these colleagues. Thank you, Mr. Chair.